The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to, at the top of the hour here, we're going to give it a few more minutes before we get started to let some more people get joined to the webinar. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started this morning. We had a number of people register this past month, so definitely want to introduce myself. I am Todd Polly. I am the Deputy CISO here at the Texas Education Agency, and this is the monthly, semi-monthly Cybersecurity Coordinator Forum. And so we hold this forum every month for cybersecurity coordinators in the districts. Each district is supposed to have a designated cybersecurity coordinator, so we're here to support you in that effort. And so we offer pertinent information, cybersecurity related around the state, and work with the SEs and LEAs. So if you need anything, definitely reach out to me. If you want to send this off to anyone else that might need to register, here's the link to register for the series. I will say that this series has been ongoing for a little while, and the software shows sometimes some predated things. So I will add new occurrences as they pop up year to year. And so I think I have next year's in there, at least partially. So you may see some more pop through. So thank you for joining. Can I get a thumbs up to make sure everyone can hear me and make sure that, we're doing okay and I'm not talking to myself? Some hands raised. Okay. All right, cool. There we are. I'm starting to worry. All right. Thank you, guys. Today, we're going to go over a couple announcements, some normal things, and then some final legislative updates. I think all those have kind of settled down as far as cybersecurity related things in relation to districts. We're going to talk about our cybersecurity initiative. And then along with that, we have Sentinel-1 here to talk about the offering that they have on the EDR side of that. Again, if you're new here, the Texas ISAL is a information sharing analysis organization ran by the Department of Information Resources, DIR. And so they do a great job of disseminating very useful, timely information from CISA, MS ISAC, various organizations that gather these intelligence feeds on vulnerabilities, threats, things that are happening. There's specific a K-12 portion of that, and we use that to disseminate the breaches of system security that come to TEA as required under TEC 11.175. And so if you sign up on that and get enrolled in that, if there's any IOCs and any potential breach that comes through, we will pass that along to you guys to look in your own environment on. So highly suggest signing up for that if you've not done that yet. And some advisories that came through just recently. One of them, CISA released a joint advisory on Lockbit. And so there's a link there to go to that. It's TLP clear, so anyone can get that and share that information. Kind of gives a little history of Lockbit, and since 2022 when they first kind of started. Actually, there was things. It started in 2019 and was renamed to Lockbit in early 2020, and seen a rise of that. It's kind of went through a couple of iterations here. This year, mostly Lockbit 3.0 is the most rampant version of that. It is a ransomware as a service. It's something that some people developed and ran, and then other people use the implementation part of that. And so it's big business. They make lots of money. Apparently, you can see here since the last 3 years, they've made $91 million, which covers approximately 1,700 attacks. So really good reading in there. There's IOCs, information indicators of compromise. There's lots of good information about the vulnerabilities that they're using to exploit. Highlighted some of those here. The top things they're using are some Go Anywhere stuff. Papercut was another vulnerability that came out last few months. Log4j has been around for a better part of a year and a half almost. That is somewhat remediated, but it's buried within so many different applications. There's just some vendors that haven't updated, so it's kind of an ongoing, persistent thing. Other things here: remote desktop, always at the top of in top 5 of vulnerabilities that are exploited. So if you have any remote desktop applications that are not secured or not rather encrypted, that are open to the internet, that's a bad idea. So check that out if you are doing anything like that in your environment. Another one that was just released was regarding MoveIt. I've seen a lot of information about this. I know the federal government has had some issues with that. I know there's some districts that are using this. I think we passed along some things to a few of those, but it's coming up again. It's kind of been hit over and over again here in the last month or so. There is a new version that does remediate this vulnerability, but this, if you download this advisory here, there is a laundry list of mitigating factors at the bottom of that, and a lot of them are just cybersecurity best practices. It's really a kind of a comprehensive list of things that you should be doing in your environments. And so if you want to check that out, it's really helpful and compact and concise. There's lots of good information in there, so please check that out if you are interested at all. All right, legislative updates. So the regular session has ended. We did have another special session. I heard that there was just a second special session just called. I don't think the context of any of those should relate to anything cybersecurity wise, but you never know how that might turn out. If somehow taxes are related to that, then we'll see. We, as an agency, looked at almost 1,500 bills this session related to various things from education, different committees. We had lots of interaction with that. I know some people on our team had to go and sit in committees with the potential to answer some questions and that sort of thing. That's the way it goes this time of everybody in EM. So we some things that actually passed. House Bill 4553 talks about DIR services, so that's directly related to some of the things we're going to talk about later in the webinar here. But it definitely rolls in, so open enrollment charter schools can get DIR services. Some clarifying things there as well. SB 271, which basically lumps all local governments into the reporting requirements for cybersecurity incidents. Previously, this government code existed, but it only applied to state agencies. And so this change lumps local governments in there. So school districts are included in that. And I'm not sure about charters. Check with your local legal teams on that. But the requirements there are much broader than the requirements under Education Code 11.175, which was just suspected breaches that involved really student information. This broadens it up to basically any suspected breach needs to be reported. And so the reporting agency for this one is going to be DIR. And so DIR is going to be standing up some system to collect those reports. I haven't heard any details about that yet. These things don't go into effect until September 1st. So they will be working on the details about the reporting requirements for that. Some of the other things on this reporting requirements, so there's 48 hours after discovery of an incident, and then 10 days after final eradication out of your environment to send a kind of a follow-up after action report. And so some of these are some of the requirements that are on this particular legislation. And it also lists ransomware. There is some ambiguity with ransomware in that if it is actually leaking information, if they just encrypt things. But I think, everyone knows in the last few years that this has been exfiltration is part of the MO now, especially with the double extortion and sometimes even triple extortion for that matter. Breaches to the Attorney General's office. The only thing that changes here is from 60 days to 30 days on the reporting time of those, and that's breaches that involve Texans. Over 250 Texans is the threshold there. The big one that snuck through there at the end, it was kind of in committee, and there was differing versions in the House and the Senate, was SB 1893, and that is prohibiting TikTok on any government entity devices. And so school districts fall into the definition that they put out there for government entities. And so just like state agencies had to do under the governor's executive order last fall, December, somewhere in that time frame, this is now going to apply to all local governments and special districts and that sort of thing. So school districts fall into that. So it bans TikTok and any other applications from their parent company, ByteDance. There's also another list of risky, security adverse companies that have been deemed, a security threat, and so those are included in that list too. And the governor and whoever will update that, but it's been standing for at least 6-7 months as it is now. So school districts are going to have to create a policy, adopt a policy that DIR is going to provide. You can alter that as you need to in your environments. They stood up a model policy for us when we were going through this process, so I'm sure it's just an extenuation of that. I'm sure they will also have some sort of knowledge sharing sessions about this to help. They did that also with state agencies, some sort of webinars. So be on the lookout for that. Looking at questions here. So does SB 1893 also mean the website, not just the application? District PD sometimes will use it to find threats as evidence. That's a good point. There is kind of some clarifications in there for law enforcement and for investigative purposes that, some exemptions. And so that's definitely called out in this particular legislation. So yes, could block the website for students. Hopefully you're able to make a differentiation between students and staff on that. Internally, and what we've done, we've blocked in our firewall. We've blocked the list of applications and those websites to that. We've blocked it on our EDR solution, and so it won't run on the endpoints. Again, some of those other applications and websites as well. And this is a whole rabbit hole of things as far as how deep you want to dive into this. There's comments in here in the sections in the legislation itself talking about personal devices and sensitive areas. And so it's kind of up to the governmental entity to decide what the sensitive device is or sensitive location is. There's some things spelled out in there. So I encourage you to go read that yourself and find that legislation. If you just Google that, it should come up and you can read that and talk to your legal teams. And we'll have more information. Again, there's nothing right now as far as this will be taken into effect, I think, September 1st. But I think there might be a slightly later time frame on adopting a policy, but it's definitely sooner than later. Got some questions. Let's see, before I finish up here. This is the last one that I have. So House Bill 18 regarding protection of minor on digital services devices. And so this requires the districts to have a policy about distributing devices for students. It also ropes in, basically includes social media, any kind of social media or media services that a student would sign up for. They have to give their age when they sign up, and then there has to be different controls in place that will reduce the marketing materials shown to minors. They also would need consent from a parent And then, like I said, the school district would have to have a policy that incorporates some of those things, and then uh, a filter that blocks and prohibits pornographic or obscene materials or applications, including unsolicited pop-ups, installations, and downloads. And so there's a big parental consent portion of this, I think, even with some of the districts. So this is definitely one to check out as well. Let's see. All right, some questions here. See lots of things popping up. Da, da, da. So there was about 3 different bills that had something regarding cybersecurity training for all staff. If you remember a few years ago, that requirement for all staff training got pulled back to just the cybersecurity coordinator and then whoever they were required. So if none of those 3 bills that I mentioned passed, so it still stands as it is right now, which is just the cybersecurity coordinator. Which, by the way, the deadline to report that is at the end of August. So if you haven't taken your training and you want to certify that, you can go ahead and do that now. But you have a couple more months here, so we'll mention that at our August meeting. Let's see what else. The slides are in the download section for all of this right now. There's also a form in there in the handout section, rather. If you look in the application here, there's a form to sign up for SDS services through DIR, and so we'll talk about that in a minute. But that is also in there. Is House Bill 18 meaning for students who bring their own devices on campus? So I think overall the part about social media talks is just in general across the board, minors, but the specific device restraints that need to be applied don't apply to personal devices that students bring on campus. It's things issued by the district. So and there's some other things in there too, like mandatory downtime, things like that are included in there. Not that there's a requirement, but that the district has to have a policy about that and consider that. How's this different from SIPA? I think the content filtering is pretty much the same. I think just some of the things with the devices and the requirements to include some parental consent may be slightly different than SIPA. Got some questions about HB 18 that I don't know the answer to. Whether goes into effect immediately, I'm not sure about that. So if you ignore that link there at the bottom, I didn't realize that was on there. That was from a previous slide. If you Google Texas HB 18 88R for 88 regular session, you should be able to find some context for the whole legislation here, and check that out. Cybersecurity is still required. Required for school board members. School board members are elected officials, and so there is some exemption in the wording for that. So check with your legal team on how they view that. But it's a little ambiguous about the school board officials kind of also being required. It's I guess it depends on who you ask about that. I will look for HB 18 when it goes into effect in a minute here, and I'll give you an update. Yeah, I think it's September 1st. So, all right, we're going to move on. Again, if you have any questions about any of these legal things, give me an email, and I'll shoot you an answer, and I'll look at the HB 18 in just a second. All right, so happy to announce that we released a TAA on June 15th regarding our cybersecurity outreach program. And so going back, for anyone that's not familiar, and I think there's a lot of people on the call, that this is what you're here to hear about. And so starting a year and a half ago or so, we started looking at some way to petition the legislature for some funds to help with school districts, specifically with the goal and idea of preventing ransomware and those sorts of threats that are happening to school districts that are detrimental and shutting things down. And so we started with some focus groups. We talked to different size school districts, just a pocket of here and there to try to get an idea of what they're looking for. The overwhelming response was a SOC service. Well, the regional SOCs that DIR is standing up would be kind of counterintuitive for us to kind of go down that road too, and that's already kind of being undertaken. And so we decided to opt out of that. Next on the list was, I think as far as preventing ransomware from various best practices and guidance was EDR as a solution, endpoint detection and response. And so EDR is next generation antivirus. Even it goes beyond that. It involves, threat analytics and different engines that analyze each activity that's happening on an endpoint to either allow it or disallow it. So if it's just activity that's reaching out to a website and then also going to open up PowerShell and run some encryption algorithm, it's like, hey, this is too risky for us to just allow. We're going to shut this down until it gets looked at. So it's really good at preventing ransomware and that kind of activity. I'm sure SentinelOne here in a minute is going to talk all about that and give us more details about that. And so we're going to offer that school districts. Previously, we had said 2,000 enrollment or less. Reevaluating things, I think we're able to open that up quite a bit. And so we're going to go up to 15,000 enrollment or less for that. Charter schools are included in that. And we're going to give licenses equal to about 10% of enrollment to try to get a standard, easy way to distribute that. Our focus there was covering servers, first and foremost, central office staff that have access to more risky kind of things, HR, people that have access to financial information and or activity that can, really have a higher impact. I think with the 10% too, we're hoping to be able to cover most of their teaching staff as well. I know it's not 100% in all the districts, but it should be getting there. Anyone that has a device and uses a computer, hopefully can get in that 10% or really close. So we're going to leave it up to you to determine who exactly fits that bill as far as higher risk with that 10%. And so we are doing a minimum because I know there's a lot of school districts that have, as they have a smaller enrollment class, that they tend the ratio for student to staff members is a little off. And so we're going to offer a kind of a minimum of 30 licenses. So if an entity, only has, 100 students, that there could potentially be with servers and central office staff, a little more than 10 licenses. So we're going to give up to 30 on that bottom end. So, and this is going to be, the legislature has wanted us to run through DIR to provide these services. And so the DIR has a managed services, security services contract. AT&T is the contract holder on that. And then there's two vendors. And so SentinelOne, which is here today, and CrowdStrike is the other one. They were here last month. If you want to look at a recording to hear about their offering, I'll show you a website here in a minute that you can go, and there's a previous recordings from last month on there. And so those will be available coming September 1st when the funding starts, and we will be able to offer those. So there's a process of getting signed up that we want to encourage everyone to do to be able to ingest the DIR services. And so there's a form that is in the handout section that is the first part in that step. And so once everyone gets signed up and you are eligible to request services through DIR's STS program, their Shared Technology Services program, then you can request to get EDR service. And this is billed like month to month. So this is through DIR. And this is, AT&T is just the vendor. So DIR is the one billing you. It's month to month. We're going to pay that bill. And so TA will be picking up. So we'll be approving those to pay for the service out of this funds. I want to reiterate that TEA doesn't see any of the data for any of these transactions, any of this, scanning any of the EDR service. You will have access to a dashboard. This is fully managed because we did not want to provide any, add any additional overhead to you guys as far as, the process of this. Yeah, you got a great tool, but if you got to spend all day in looking at it, to be able to accomplish and remediate threats, that's not necessarily helpful when the idea is, you guys are understaffed anyway. And so this is a fully managed solution. There's some other options there we can talk about if you have specific questions. And again, this is AT&T has a SOC that they're going to be overall watching the services through this. And we can talk about that a little later as well. Also on this, also on this ask is some funding for security assessments. And so this is a security assessment that's going to come out. We're going to have a kind of a pared down. We're still working on getting to that point, a pared down version for school district. This will also be through DIR. Again, we are not going to get any individual scores for this. At most, I think we want to see just general ideas about, like, say, what do smaller districts look like in mass? And so we'll get some aggregated data for that, medium-sized districts and then larger districts. The idea being here, when we first started talking to some legislatures, they didn't have any really good information about what the school districts look like. And so funding them was, hard to justify sometimes because they didn't have any hard data on this. And so we thought, well, if we can get some assessments in their hands, maybe in the future we can get some more funding for school districts, specifically with cybersecurity stuff. So this program is available for the biennium, so for the next 2 years, starting September 1st and then until August 31st, 2025. And to facilitate this, we've also got a web page set up. I'll have a link here for that in a second. It's a little too busy for the slide. And so we're putting as much information as we can on there, FAQs, different things that come up a lot, information about details about the program. Also included so the assessments are going to be open, again, not just to the 15,000 or less. We're kind of getting a sampling. And so we don't have enough to do the whole state. We're looking at like a sample, again, 10% of 1,200 districts, so 120 spread across, again, the different size districts to kind of, again, try to get a clear picture of the state. And so those are going to come on the first come, first served basis throughout the biennium here. So if you're interested in that, sign up sooner than later and we can get that. NDR, network detection and response, is also included in that ask. And so we're still working out the technology for that, and is whatever DIR and gets on their managed services, security services contract, still working on the vendor to see exactly who that will be. And so we'll probably moving forward with a pilot to try to figure out how exactly that will work. I know there's a lot of regions that act as ISPs for various districts. And so if we can incorporate that at a region level, that would be a lot more effective than individual districts for that particular service, because it's a network-based hardware and monitoring service. And so still some open-ended questions about that, but that's part of it. The other part of this program is the security practitioners. And so we also petitioned to get extra help to implement this program, to help with various stages, whether it be the assessments, onboarding, EDR, getting installed there. We also had some other objectives in there about turning on MFA. So if everyone has MFA available on an email, whether they're using it or not, is the question. If we can encourage that, if we can provide any kind of support with that, with these practitioners to get that turned on and engaged in your districts, that's kind of the purpose here. And so we're looking at, from various, we've had a lot of feedback, a lot of interactions, trying to figure out exactly where these individuals would reside. We think one in each district, but I think we're going to let one centrally managed, either a region or something like TASI, which they represent all the regions, let them handle that portion of that, and then distribute them as they needed. So there's some regions that might not be able to support a full-time person doing this activity. There just isn't enough work there, and so being able to flex that person to other regions as needed is kind of crucial to keeping this working. And so there's another thing that we're kind of aside from our ask, that's just a freebie that UT Austin came to us and said, hey, we've got this service that we provide to lots of other school districts around the country, specifically like almost half of Canada's school districts are enrolled in this. And it's a web application vulnerability scan. And so it will look at any kind of public facing websites and look at any vulnerabilities or anything else that's associated with that. They have a proprietary system that they've set up. And so we're going to enroll all the school districts starting July 1st. You can opt out of that, but I encourage you not to. Again, TEA is not getting any of this information. we don't have time to deal with this. Our group does not. And so this is something strictly through UT Austin. And again, this service will let you know if there's any instance of a vulnerability that exists on your device. So not your device, but on your website. And there's already things out there in the wild that are doing this kind of service. There's, I'm sure you see scans on your network all the time that are looking for and trying various different things to see if they work. There's websites that catalog of that, like Shodan.io is a good example. And so I think UT uses something that incorporates a lot of that public information to say, hey, this website is running this as a web engine, and it's this patch is probably missing, and so this is an exploitable thing. And so they use that and to highlight, because all that stuff's in banners on web pages. And so they use that in coordination, and then they do some when they find something, they kind of validate to make sure that it's legit before they'll send you an email. So these are helpful. This is, again, this information is known whether you want to get the report or not. So I encourage you to get the report. So if you can at all address that, that would be helpful to you. So, and also wanted to know, so there's the IP address that these scans are going to be coming through University of Texas. And I just want to point out too that any of this stuff is not PIRable. I know I've heard some concerns about that, with this when we talked about this with some individuals, and this should be something that you can get an exemption for, that you don't have to give this information out, and you could get an exemption from the Attorney General's office. All right. That took a little longer than I was planning, and I don't want to give SentinelOne a lot of time here, so let me run through any questions real quick. Yeah, I know there's a lot of districts that are using TikTok to create videos and things, and yeah, it is what it is. Again, check with your legal team if you have serious questions about that. No, there was nothing passed about cybersecurity training. No changes there. Slides are in the handout section, so you should be able to download those now. Oh, wait. To confirm, is EDR only for servers? So we're going to let you use it how you want to, but our hope is, servers, top of the list, central office staff, and then whoever else you can apply those licenses to. There are options for Windows and Mac. Absolutely. I think even Linux servers, if you have some of those. And maybe some of these even work on Chromebooks, if that's what your flavor is in your district. And I may have said region when I meant districts several times. The 20 practitioners are in the regions, not the districts. My apologies. There is some support too in our kind of objective. One of the things I forgot to mention, along with MFA, is kind of some email security. And so there's some free things that you can do: SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, which is, they're basically DNS entries for email, and they prevent spoofing. They validate some emails that come and go out of your environment to try to make things a little bit more secure. And so that's included too, helping get that set up. Districts do have a choice on EDR. There are two options on MSS's contract. SentinelOne CrowdStrike. Again, about to do SentinelOne here. So, all right. Moving on. Oh, sorry. Here's the website for that. Sorry for not having that up a minute ago. If you need anything from us, you can email cybersecurity@TA.Texas. Any questions about signing up for the SDS or DIR's security services so that we can get these services? Again, the form is in the handout section, but you can email DIR there as well. And this website that we've set up, we've got resources at the bottom that have previous month's recordings from this particular webinar. Some of the information from last month might have been a little bit different because like I said, we upped that threshold from 2,000 to 15,000. So that's the major difference there. All right. I am going to introduce Brad Booth and Jared here. Let me get it handed over so that you can present, Brad. And then
all right,
take it away, my man.
Appreciate it. Are you? Can you hear me? We'll start with you, and we'll see.
Yes, we can hear you.
How it goes. All right, cool. All right. There we go. And are you seeing my slides or
Yes, sir. You're good to go, sir.
Cool. All right. Well, appreciate it, Todd. Really excited about what we're doing today. And it's fun to see, a bunch of needs being met by the legislature, heard everyone loud and clear, right? There's just not enough funding out there for schools. It's hard to make those trade-offs, right? Between, do we get a new scoreboard? Do we give teachers raises? Do we fix the HVAC that just got hit? And then, oh yeah, we need to do this cyber thing and hire some people in. So it's really fun to have been behind the scenes kind of working on seeing how we can shape and work these, help protect the kids, right? That's the goal of this. In the next, 20 to 25 minutes, what we're going to do today is kind of, for those who aren't familiar with who SentinelOne is, we're going to show you a little bit about what the offer is and what it's going to include. But more importantly, it's people, process, technology. I want you to get to know the people behind the scenes, the process behind the scenes. The tech will do the talking, but at the end of the day, this is a partnership, right? And so I want you to know kind of how that's going to work, and all this is going to be managed by the fine folks at AT&T. It's a fully managed security service, facilitated through DIR, and we're all on the same team, right? We're a component of it, and so the rest of the time we're going to show you how that's going to work. And then here in a moment, I'll be introducing you to a fellow by the name of Jared Phipps, but hopefully you'll see him here in a second. All right, Todd, did I go to the next slide, or am I still on the same one? Just checking.
Yep, you're doing good.
All right, it's working as is. I'll quit checking. Perfect. So as some of y'all saw, and I think a lot of people are here for the first time, so welcome to the monthly call. It's a lot of great information, different topics every month. This will probably be the one time we're on unless we're invited back. So it's not just you just come for information and ask questions. So it's please continue to come month after month. But as you saw earlier, for those who aren't quite familiar, the funding is going to take place September 1st. Everyone needs to sign an interlocal agreement with Texas DIR. It comes with a lot of great benefits. You don't have to pay for an incident response retainer from another firm anymore. Just having an interlocal agreement that automatically signs you up to the statewide cyber response. So it's a lot more details behind the scenes there. And I know next month AT&T is going to be presenting. There might have a lot more information about the program. So today we're going to show you what it looks like to have SentinelOne as your flavor of choice to protect your devices. But I have this slide up here for a reason. I heard it loud and clear from folks who knew a little bit about this program ahead of time. September 1st is September 1st. Y'all are rolling through school. You need to protect people now. We're in the change control window. This is busy season. And so for anyone who's not currently a SentinelOne customer who needs to really get better protection and is really anticipating the funding coming September 1st, qualifies and is in the process to get an interlocal agreement, we will do some pro bono work to help get you guys onboarded, get our security solutions deployed, and get you guys rocking and rolling. And then come September 1st, we'll hand it over to the fully managed security service. And you know what? The technology work is done. So there's no reason why we have to wait for contracts and paperwork when this is the window to do the tech thing. And so we're going to take on the labor, we're going to take on the costs because it's the right thing to do to help get you guys going in the time when you need it, which is now. So I'll have my information at the end, but that's the announcement. But I'll lead with dessert first, kind of know what you're going to get if you have a fully managed SentinelOne security service. We'll show you a quick little pre-can video. Jared's going to walk through how we can stop and protect against ransomware, but things that we do uniquely as a company and things that we are strengths that we're going to bring to the table are going to be, for your Windows machines. If your bad day happens, ransomware hits it, you're bricked, we'll show you how we can automatically roll back into a known good state and have the network effect of we see one bad thing happen. Now the rest of your devices know about it. Now the other districts in the program know about it. Everyone in the statewide security cloud is going to know about it. And if we flash back to the reason why we have the funding, the cross district, cross county, cross city attacks, they don't just go after you by themselves, it spreads. So the network effect of being a part of the program is crucial. Other things, Todd said it, I'll reiterate it. We can work on Chromebooks. We can work on your iPads, your Android devices. We support legacy Windows devices. And so net of it is whatever device you have, it's a very 99% chance we're going to cover it, and it would be eligible for this program if you fit the, if it's a server or a central admin. Last thing, or one of the last things I want you to know, I didn't know about the TikTok legislation. I knew about the state, but not the school. So I was taking great notes about Senate Bill 1893. We are working with state agencies today. So the same solution that's a part of this program, we were working with a state agency. We're able to show that with our mobile threat defense elements of our EDR, one, we can help stop and block the TikTok app, but more importantly, the URLs that they resolve to, because it's not just the app, it's the website and all that. So with SentinelOne, it sounds like we could be a really big force multiplier to help you meet that legislation. I wasn't aware of it, so keep that in mind when you're looking at things to do. But outside of tech, people process technology. I'll reiterate that. It's the people matter the most. And so outside of the technology, the people are working. I want you to know that SentinelOne, we want to be a partner, and we want to get involved with the schools. We built a program a little bit over a year ago from our S Foundation, and our goal, our CEO says, hey, we want to be a force for good. And we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're walking the walk. We have more than 10% of SentinelOne employees are certified in delivering content to schools. Here's some photos from the North Texas area, and a couple of our engineers. We even have a professor on staff. He's one of our engineers. He's also a professor at Collin College. He was helping talk to his students about cybersecurity as well as how to get into the field. Just a little bit internal communication screenshot, just showing you that, we're here to help, not just about the product, not about just transactions. Like, we're here for we're here to make sure the kids are safe, and we're here to make sure their futures are set. And we want to be your partner in that. And, reach out to me. I'll come to your district. We'll talk, or I'll give you the content, teach you how to do it, and we can just spread the word. But here we go. Jared, are you here?
Yep, good to go.
There you go, panned in. So for those who don't know, Jared Phipps, he lives down the road from me in San Antonio. He is our SVP of the Americas, Solutions Engineering. And I'm sure there's a lot of things I can talk about, but I'll let you do what you do. But a little bit about Jared before he takes the baton. I'll turn my camera off. Former Air Force, former, living the day-to-day, ran technology, solution engineering here at SentinelOne, amongst other things. And hopefully I'm not butchering your resume, trying to give the brief one there for you, Jared. But Jared is now our sales and solution engineering leader. So hopefully what you'll see here, we're an engineering first company. We have our worldwide head of engineering is now head of sales for the Americas. So hopefully that, gives you a preview of our DNA as a company. But Jared, I'll let you take it away, and we'll talk about some research and other things. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it, Brad, and thanks everybody for the time to be here. Yeah, if you want to hit the next slide, Brad, I'll kind of jump into this. I've been doing cyber for a long time. I started doing cyber in the Air Force, and I've been tracking a lot of these threat actors now for literally 20 years. What I want to go through and show everybody is maybe some insights at a macro level on where we see as a company the threat landscape. I think most people are well aware that there's a lot of cyber activity going on between Russia and Ukraine, and everybody's assuming that that's where most of the activity is at today. Actually, year to date, the top cyber activity coming out globally is out of Iran. So Iran has always been a very regional actor. They do a lot of activity in the Middle East, but we actually see them now tampering into Ukraine. We see them reaching into China, doing, again, governments monitor governments. We see them getting really focused on some specific US entities. Have not seen them go after education yet. China, however, does. China does go selectively after education, largely in the university space, largely focused on two things. One is access to innovative research and technologies, which is led by universities. And the second thing is China likes to monitor their citizens who are in the US, attending US schools. So they do a lot of that. The fourth actor is actually North Korea. So Lazarus, everybody's familiar with North Korea from what they did to Sony Pictures a long time ago. I don't think people realize how active North Korea remains. In fact, the #1 threat on Mac operating systems today is North Korea. So if we go to the next slide, Brad. Okay, so the other piece of this, you know, in 2021, we really saw ransomware step back a little bit, right? We had seen a rather prolific global engagement of ransomware. The Russia-Ukraine conflict kicked off, and everybody said, oh, well, they're fighting each other now, so there's no time for ransomware. That's actually not why it slowed down. Yes, a significant number of the global ransomware actors are centered in St. Petersburg, which is in Russia, but there was a economic tightening and an elimination of SWIFT banking. When we cut ties to the Russian SWIFT banking, the ability for the ransomware actors to operate financially was hindered. They have now regained access to global financial markets now through China. And then you see last year, the resurgence really started. It started a little bit in April, then it kicked off in May, big boom in June, right? There was all this pent up demand. And then in July, it's really normalized. It's been very steady and consistent since then. State and counties have always been, and schools have always been a high target for ransomware operators, along with manufacturing and hospitals. Largely because those are organizations that have underinvested and they do carry cyber policies. Cyber policies are willing to pay the ransoms. Next slide. And that last part, by the way, is really, really important, right? The ransomware actors are making billions of dollars a year. And I don't think people realize that the payouts are now over $1 billion a year, but it's become a very, very substantial issue for cyber insurance in general. So for an entire year ended last year, you'll notice at the very top right, that threat actor is Lockbit, but we also saw a lot of something called AlphaV, Vice Society, Hive, and Royal. So those were the actors that really reemerged post-Ukraine. Once they found out a way to get reconnected through China, those are the actors that you see. We still see Abos Blocker and a few others, but if you look at it last year, now you look at this year, here's the top actors of this year. There's only one new name on that list, and that's #4 at Clock. So Lockbit, they have been the #1 ransomware threat actor for the last 3 years, and that's globally. Lockbit runs a very, very sophisticated affiliate program. They're able to run operations 24/7. They have support organization to sustain their affiliates, very, very sophisticated. We see them using source code that's derived from Conti. Conti being the group out of Russia that has been sanctioned by the FBI, and again, St. Petersburg focused organization. So what we want to do, and you can jump to the next one, we want to look a little bit about threats by operating system, right? Everybody kind of assumes that Windows is the #1 target, Mac and Linux are a distant second. Well, Windows is highly targeted. Quackbot is the C2, largely tied again with Lockbit. But you'll also see that Redline and Solar Marker, those are the top infiltration threats, and those are newer this year. We have not seen them as much prior. On the Linux side of the house, there's been a really significant rise. In particular, there was a Babic source code leak, and that was tied to ESX. So if you're running VMware ESXi servers, then I would tell you right now that we're tracking 10 variants of ransomware that are specifically targeting the ESXi server infrastructure. And so this would be ransomware now targeting Linux environments. That has not weaponized to the extent, but I do think we're going to see a lot more of that coming. And it's largely because the ransomware operators have not had the access to the infrastructure. When the source code leak occurred, that gave them really deep access to virtualized Linux infrastructure, right? Everybody has Linux source code, but everybody's running this in a virtualized environment. How does the hypervisor change affect the ability for an actor to attack remotely? Well, substantially. And that source code has really opened Linux up to become a vulnerable platform. So I do think in the years coming, we're going to see quite a bit more targeting ESXi environments in particular. And then finally, Mac OS. So I mentioned earlier that North Korea is very focused on Mac OS right now. And that is very active, like right now, April, May, June. There's an attack called Rust Bucket. Rust Bucket is a social engineer-based attack where PDF files are sent to the users along with instructions of how to open that PDF file. And they're convincing the user that because they're using their own encryption to protect this sensitive document that must be signed, it won't be recognized by Apple. So here's the screenshots that you need to go through and accept in order to open this. It's generally tied to cryptocurrencies or some other financial transaction, but they're really motivating people through money. And you can see that when that's going through, that they're getting a lot of traction with that. So like we said before, Lockbit remains the #1 threat actor out there. And Lockbit has been there for 3 years. Lockbit's targeted counties, Lockbit's targeted government agencies, manufacturing organizations, hospitals, and tons of schools. So we want to show you how the SentinelOne platform responds to Lockbit. We do a phenomenal job against them, by the way. And if you want to go to the next screen, Brad. This is a video, again, that we've recorded. You just go ahead and hit play, and I'll talk through this. What I have right here, these are 4 Windows machines, okay? There's actually multiple in this range, but I can only show 4 screens at one time. These machines all have SentinelOne installed on them, but we turned all blocking and prevention off, okay? So we're not gonna block anything, or that'd make this a really boring video. You'd see, oh, SentinelOne block, Lockbit, done. So we're gonna allow the ransomware to run, and we're doing that on that top left machine. Now what happens when Lockbit runs, it automates and it leverages automation to scale. This is why it's the most popular ransomware out there. Inherently, Lockbit is going to go inside of the Windows operating system and leverage components of GPO, and it's going to spread automatically to all the other Windows devices using Microsoft functionalities. You're watching this right now. So SentinelOne is now popping up going suspicious threat, suspicious threat, suspicious threat, right? Normally we'd be blocking this. Again, I turned blocking off. And now what's happening is in the background, Lockbit is encrypting files. In fact, if you watch the counts on the screen, you'll see the active. Those are the file counts that the ransomware is going through on that machine right now and encrypting files. Okay, as soon as it gets done encrypting those files, then it'll throw up a splash page and it'll tell you, and you see it popping up there right on the top right. All of your files are encrypted, right? They're stolen and encrypted. So this is what's going to pop up now on all the machines in the environment, and you watched how quick this happened. We did this across 11 machines right now. When this happens, it usually targets about 2 a.m., 3 a.m. US time. The attackers know the time zones of who they're targeting. They're going after the middle of the night. By the time the execution starts, the ability to stop it is really limited, really limited. So you generally walk in and you find this splash screen on all of your servers, whatever infrastructure those servers are connected to. It can typically be fleet-wide, very disruptive to a business. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go in and we're going to go look at addressing this through SentinelOne. Like I said, I could have blocked this. I turned blocking off because that makes this a lot more interesting. So we come into the console. There's 11 machines that have been hit. Let's go in and let's look at one alert for one of those machines. In this particular case, what you'll see is that there was 15 threat indicators, okay? And in the normal security product, that means there's 15 separate alerts in the console. And by the way, if I do this across 100 machines, now you've got just this barrage of alerts, and it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do with all these alerts? In SentinelOne, though, we show you how all of these incidences tie together, and you can expand and you can build out and you can see very cleanly what was going on and what was, process injection or where the attacker came from. And more importantly, we give you response functions. Let's say you're investigating this machine and you, hey, something's going on here. I want to stop the attack from spreading. You can disconnect that machine from the network. It'll still respond to the SentinelOne console, but you can now secure, stop the spread from everywhere else. Otherwise, if I want to go fix every machine in my environment, that's what I just said here. I collect all 11 machines, and now I'm issuing a command called rollback. Now, rollback is patented to SentinelOne. We're the only vendor in the world that is allowed to do this. But what happens is we've maintained an awareness model of what your machine would look like. We're going to go back, and we're going to take every single one of these machines across the entire fleet, right? We can be doing hundreds and hundreds of these machines at a time. and we're going to restore them to the pre-lock bit state. So keep in mind, right? 15 seconds for these 11 machines. It would typically take probably 30, 45 seconds for an entire fleet to be remediated. All of these machines go back to a pre-attack state. And you'll notice here, there's success indicators. All 11 machines are recovered. I can see per machine all the files that were recovered. I can even go in and look at the log file on the machines to see which files had been encrypted and which files were recovered and pulled back to a normal state. So if somebody wants to see with great granularity what we did to recover that machine, everything is there for you in complete detail. So when you're dealing with something like ransomware, and I'm going to reiterate, I've said it multiple times, we could have blocked this. We could have stopped it from ever happening, okay? And we use artificial intelligence. So I don't need any awareness of an attacker to block their attacks. I block things on day one that nobody's ever seen before. But in any random event where somehow they did get by, I also have the ability to recover, and I can recover at scale and I recover in an automated fashion. So Jared, with the time, Brad, I'll just kick it back to you and you can kind of roll and wrap up.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I looked at the clock and I know they probably want a little bit of Q&A. And Jared, I appreciate you running through all of that. We did that rather quickly. So if anyone wants to know a little bit more about how we work, happy to do that. But the beautiful thing is this is a fully managed solution. So once we're on, once it's working, you can, people process technology, you might be the person in the district doing it, or you might have a few people, the critical things will be taken care of in these threat attacks and all of that. And you guys can focus your people towards other areas of innovation or other areas that, have need, whether it's patching or network stuff, or, maybe the internet's not working at the football stadium. So you got to go out there and make it work, right? You guys do a lot of stuff. So, I'll hit home with this just to remind you what makes us different and unique and things to consider if you're like, I don't know what flavor of service I want to do. One, we showed you the ransomware rollback remediation. That is unique to us and a great value add should that bad thing happen. Everyone across the state can get that and roll back pretty quickly, which will help. Chrome protection, iOS, working for mobile threat defense to make sure that those devices don't go to TikTok if they're not supposed to go to TikTok. Maybe it's just you need to report on it, be like, hey, look, we're showing you they're not going to TikTok, we're compliant, but more important, it's about security. So we I'll pause. We have 3 minutes. Todd, I don't know if you want to pop back in. I know AT&T, there's a bunch of fine folks from there on the call, and y'all are presenting next month. But Todd, where should we go from here? Oh, one final thing. Here's my email. I also have a colleague on the phone, Lindsay Clausen. We are the duo for Texas. So I cover everything south of Waco, Rio Grande Valley, Houston, Deep East Texas. And then Lindsay will be covering El Paso, Midland, Big Bend, Dallas, Waco, Texarkana. So that's kind of how we divide it up. So just send us a note if you want to get on board or ahead of time. Hey, Lindsay, nice dog in the background. Sweet. Now you know Lindsay. You can see her. She lives in Dallas. I live in Dripping Springs. And that's our time, Todd. I'll let you
All right.
take it.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. I'm going to pop something back up real quick just for... Yeah, I wanted to make note. I did look up HB 18, and I'm sorry, I put something wrong in the chat. It takes effect September 1, 2024. So you got a little bit of time on that, and we should get DIR guidance on that with that model policy, I think. So there was some questions, Brad. Someone asked a question. You said 100% certified to work in school districts. I wanted clarification on that.
I'm not seeing any of the questions. Maybe we can. What's the?
There was just you had mentioned that your product was 100% certified in school districts, and they were just curious what that meant.
That might have been me rambling and saying wrong words.
Fair,
but we're 100% certified. That's a gold star that I don't know what it goes to. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Just FedRAMP. Sorry to interject, but if there's any kind of requirements in the state, FedRAMP, things like that, there's certifications there, so no need to worry.
Gotcha. Yes, and so to sign up for this, there's some people that maybe started a little late in the webinar. This is being offered through DIR and their managed security services. So if you got our webpage here that should be displaying through that link, we have kind of all that information on how to get signed up. And so you sign up with an interlocal agreement first. There's no commitment, there's no charge for anything like by filling that out. That just gets you the ability to request services through the STS portal, which is where this would be them from. And so that's the first step, is getting signed up. So it takes a little bit of time. So we're trying to encourage people to do that prior to September 1, because this service, as I understand it, is billed month to month based on installed devices. And so with the money we have available, if you don't go through the process and get it installed on your devices sooner than later, then you're going to miss out on some of the funding. And so we're trying to encourage people to do that sooner than later so that we can get all of these funds distributed. There have been some questions about larger school districts. So the idea is within Mass, the number will go down as far as purchasing this from DIR. And so that's a factor. And then also there's other services like Brad had mentioned earlier at the start of the presentation, just incident response, things that can quickly be provided by DIR. There are some fees to some of those, but it's, there's no commitment to sign up, but it gets you quicker access if you do need something along those services. And I think that's most everything. There have been some questions too about if you already had one of, the EDR services that are going to be provided and you wanted to change that. There is a custom option. I don't want to muddy the water too much, but you can make a custom request when you request the service. And I think we have validated that we can get that, whatever your version is, updated to like a fully managed version, and cover the difference in that for the number of devices that we've kind of said. So that is a possibility as well. And we've got, it is up to you what EDR service you choose. And that'll be your choice when you apply for that through the portal. Any other questions? So in the slides, it is talking about signing up sooner than later. So this funding, I'm sorry, my dogs have went off. It is available 9/1/23, and so through the biennium. So that is different from House Bill 18 that was talking about the services for that with the distribution of social media stuff and that sort of thing. The EDR services is for the next biennium, which is September 1st, 2023 through August 31st, 2025. Does this replace Sophos AV? It would. I don't think that you would need Sophos AV if you had this product, either one of these. They are, they might work in conjunction, but like you would probably want this to be your primary antivirus declared on your workstations or your servers. Currently, we got the threshold of 15,000 enrollment and below. It's totally possible if we don't get everyone that we wanted to open it up for everyone that we could, and that was kind of the threshold with that to cover all the things that we were intended to cover. If we don't get the buy-in on that, if districts don't participate, we're going to open that up sooner than later so that we can take advantage of these funds. So if after 6 months, we've only got half of what we expected, I think we will either raise the limitation or raise the percentage or something along those lines. If you sign up, there's no commitment. You can sign up and not use the service, and nothing else happens except you can get services from DIR quicker whenever you need them. The standard version, the question is, will the ALEA not have access to the dashboards? So I believe they will have view-only visibility to the dashboards through the just standard off-the-shelf version. AT&T will be managing, some of that with their SOC. There's a custom option where you can request a little different things, and so that would give you more access. So if you have access now with the product, one of these products, and then you want to add or change that around, We can do a custom option, I think, or AT&T DIR can, so that you can retain that that ability to do that. Right. You can purchase more license. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, this is DIR sells this service just to anyone. And so that was the overarching idea of why the legislature wanted us to go through DIR services, because this is available to all local governments and all other, you know, there's over 7,000 local governments across the state. And the more people in there, the cheaper it gets for everyone. So that was the idea, with economies of scale. It won't cover your existing EDR, but like I said, you know, an upgrade or expansion of one of these, if you have one of these CrowdStrike or SentinelOne vendors, then it would cover that. All right. Again, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. We're over, and the questions are pretty much at the end. So email us if you have any questions. Specifically, join us in August. We'll talk a little bit more about it. AT&T will be here to kind of give their overview of their side of the fence as far as their SOC and their analysis and how they interact with you in the districts, if there was an incident or that sort of thing with any of your EDR. And thank you guys for coming, and appreciate you guys. And have a good summer. We will not be meeting in July, so our next meeting will be in August.
Thank you, Todd.